Hello guys, it's me Simo Orahara, and in this video we'll talk about the similarities between Ichigo in the form of Holo and as well as Zaraki's Bankai. These similarities show how creative Kubo in creating these most distinctive characters in the story of Bleach. So first of all, I have always said, and I will repeat, the path of building that Kubo has taken for these two characters is very similar. If we go back to the beginning of each one of them, we will find that since their childhood, they had a great spiritual strength. Zaraki, who was just a wandering soul, who had the appearance of a kid, defeated the strongest swordman in the Sword Society, the first Kenpachi Yachiru Unohana. While Ichigo, at the age of 15, was able to confront Aizen Sasuke at his highest level and was the reason for his defeat. Little Zaraki never entered the Shinigami Academy, nor did he get an Asauchi like the rest of the Shinigami. He just stole one from a dead officer. Then he started to roam the Sword Society with that sword until he became his own Zanpakuto. Ichigo also never entered into a Shinigami Academy. He didn't get an Asauchi like the rest of the Shinigami. Rather, Holo White was the vassal of his Shinigami power. And if we go back to their Shinigami powers, we can say that the biggest similarity between them is that their strength was suppressed. Zaraki's Shinigami power were suppressed by the seals he placed on his powers without realizing that, causing him to fight with a small part of his power. While in Ichigo's case, the Osan Zangetsu was suppressing his powers and he was allowing only a part of his total power to show up when Ichigo was in a dangerous situation. And this is what happened to Zaraki as well. When Zaraki goes through a dangerous fight that can lead to his death, a set of those cells that are on his power is removed, which makes him gain the power he needs to defeat his enemy. Except in his fight against Ichigo. Ichigo had a privilege because he was helped by the Osan Zangetsu, who raised his Shinigami power more than Zaraki Kenpachi could match. Rather, if we're gonna talk about the Osan Zangetsu, we will find that Zaraki and Ichigo both had a wrong perception of their powers. Ichigo believed that the Osan Zangetsu was his Zanpakuto, which represents his Shinigami power, and later it turned out that this is wrong and that Osan Zangetsu is his Quincy power. While Zaraki believed that little Yachiru was just a little soul he found lost in the Rekongai, and then she became a Shinigami and became his vice captain. And later, we discovered that Yachiru is not a Shinigami, but rather the power of his Bankai. Also, when we talk about how each one of them deals with their Zanpakuto, we will find that Zaraki and Ichigo, both of them, struggled to communicate with their Zanpakutos. Zaraki spent centuries fighting without knowing the name of his Zanpakuto, while Nozarashi was trying to contact him all this time. Ichigo also had a kind of struggle with controlling his Holo powers, which is basically his Shinigami powers, and he was only able to control it when he learned the truth about his powers. And I can tell you something, before the start of the final arc, Zaraki and Ichigo were known to be the only ones with Zanpakuto that are in a constant release of Shikai. Because Kubo, before the start of the final arc, when he was asked about Zaraki's Zanpakuto, he said that Zaraki has a Zanpakuto in a constant release of Shikai. However, Kubo later tried to change what he had said by making the characters in the story have this misconception about Zaraki's Zanpakuto. Because Zaraki appeared with Nozarashi in the fight in front of Byakuya and Toshiro, Byakuya said it must have been wrong to think that Zaraki had his Zanpakuto in constant release. And also, one of the distinctive things about Ichigo and Zaraki is the destructive power that each one of them has. The unusual Ryatsu they possess makes their fights always characterized by a kind of might, whether in the method of close-range fighting or the performance of deadly attacks. I mean, if you go back to the classification that Yohaba put for each one of them, somehow it's similar. Ichigo has potential and Zaraki has combat strength. All of Zaraki and Ichigo's fights fall into both categories. Ichigo and Zaraki are characters who fight fiercely and are able to evolve in the same battle due to the way their power work. And this ferocity is embodied in each one of them in a different way, but it remains close. Ichigo has white. This Zanpakuto is very special. It fights without mercy, only seeks one thing, which is to kill his opponent. As for Zaraki, his ferocity is found in his personality itself, his bloodthirsty for battle. Perhaps the most prominent manifestation of this ferocity can only be seen in these two examples. Holo Ichigo, as well as Zaraki's Bankai. When we talk about the absence of the mind and the presence of the fighting instinct, we will find that Ichigo's Holo becomes the one who controls Ichigo's body in the Bankai phase that we saw against Ilikura, so that Ichigo's body changes. His hair grows longer, the color of his skin also changes, and the Holo mask consists of 2 long horns. And this type of transformation also occurs to Zaraki in the Bankai phase. His body color changes towards red, and his muscles become more robust, and 2 small horns appear on the front of his head. And as we said, both of them are controlled by the instinct of killing and catching. Holo Ichigo, with a blink of an eye, cut off Ilikura's arm and then struck a direct blow to Ilikura's body, cutting off one of his horns. While Zaraki, with his mouth, he cut off Jirard's arm, as well as broke his shield and cut off his hand. The catching power is matched by the extraordinary speed in order to enable them to make direct attacks before the opponent even reacts. The difference is that Zaraki's Bankai depends only on Shimpu, while Holo Ichigo uses Sonido. And another point added to Ichigo is the use of Zero. But the point that Holo Ichigo and Bankai Zaraki have in common is the remarkable desire to catch and kill, and the inability to differentiate between friend and foe. That is, it's true that instinctively they know that they must fight opponent X, but if any other party intervenes in the battle, they will not hesitate in considering it a party in the battle that must be killed. We saw how Holo Ichigo attacked Yuryu. The same thing would have happened if Toshiro had come forward to help Zaraki. Byakuya knew this very well, so he warned him not to advance. The important thing is that Ichigo's Bankai and Zaraki's Holo weren't fighting at full strength. For example, when it comes to Ichigo's Holo, I personally think that the Osan let a lot of Ichigo's Shinigami power to flow in order to fight Ilikura. However, the real part of Ichigo's Shinigami power remained buried. And it is the same thing that happened to Zaraki. When Yachiru tried to increase Zaraki's strength, the latter's body could not bear that strength and his arm was cut off. In the end, we can say that neither Ichigo or Zaraki has not showed us their true potential. Ichigo said that he still can't control very well his true powers when he used both of them in the Horn of Salvation. And Zaraki hasn't used yet his Bankai with his own will. I don't know if we're gonna see it as the same when Yachiru used it by herself. But for now we have 10 years of time skip. So definitely Zaraki and Ichigo have mastered their power now and are ready to show it in the Hell Arc. So guys, what do you think? Give me your opinion about Zaraki's power and Ichigo's power, and see you in my next video.